Took my family away from my Carolina home, had dreams about the West and started to roam. 6 long months on a dust-covered trail. They say heaven's at the end, but so far it's been hell. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. We were digging and shifting from 5 to 5, selling everything we found just to stay alive. Gold flowed free like the whiskey in the bars. Sinning was the big thing, Lord, and Satan was a star. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Dance hall girls were the evening treat, empty cartridges and blood lined the streets. Men were shot down for the sake of having fun, or just to hear the noise of their 44 guns. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Now my widow, she weeps by my grave, tears flow free for her man she couldn't save. Shot down in cold blood by a gun that carried fame, all for the useless and no good, worthless claim. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Waiting for me there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, 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 YouTubers and friends, how are you all doing tonight? Absolutely, totally awesome for the start of winter, I hope. Everybody getting ready for Christmas. Not me, I'm kind of a Grinch. Not really. I'm just, 4th of July is my holiday, but we don't need to go into that. Well, we have a really great guest tonight. He's been a guest before on Tuesday Night Hangout Live. We have Paleo Joe, paleontologist from Michigan, who goes all over the country and looks for dinos and fish and all kinds of other cool fossils. And if you're like me, you like fossils, and yeah, that is a treasure. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Paleo Joe, ToledoJess, Dano, and hopefully Rose soon. You know I'm here. Don't go away. Hey, YouTubers and friends, thanks for joining us for another episode of Tuesday Night Hangout Live with ToledoJess, Dano, the Treasure Vixens, and I. Guys, I was really surprised you weren't chatting up a storm in my ear when I was trying to do all that like you normally do.
Well, we were. You hear us?
You must have successfully figured out how to cut us off.
Mental block,
I don't
I
know
do have
because I was talking to Joe.
That's from having a woman, Ed. That's called selective hearing. You learn to.
a. Well, looks like we have a great crowd in here tonight.
Yeah, cool.
Willie and the world's greatest moderator, Mr. Lodak Vendetta.
Mr. Lodak, Jared,
How
how's
you
it going
doing?
tonight?
Don G, good day, mate. Um,
The Rocky
JP,
Mountain Life Prospecting.
I hope the better halves family's all right there in Kentucky, and anyone in Kentucky or the 8 states that had a tornado over the weekend.
They got hit pretty hard. They definitely got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, the longest tornado sloth in American history, as we know now. So
No, I'm not going to be in the chat tonight.
maybe next
GPU.
year. Well, hopefully not.
What's up, Randy, Scotty, Tony, JP, Lons, and more?
Randy,
Yep,
Scotty,
honest.
Tony, not Swiftwater.
Otis in here.
Finger.
Oh, Otis,
What's up, Finger?
brother, thank you for that coat, man. The gift that
Otis.
keeps on giving. One more pan. Good to see you. GoPro Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Live Prospecting, AUR Prospector. Welcome.
Welcome.
And I don't think I've ever checked out Gold Tube. It ain't a porno site, is it? Treasure porn, okay, but I don't need nothing get me in trouble with the wife. I do that enough on my own.
I was, that thought was running through my head. Like you need help.
Dennis.
Mark Miller, what's up?
Music Man Mark Miller, how you doing? Some of these people I can't wait to meet this coming
I hear you.
June. Well, we probably.
Yeah, I see Todd put out or Top Cat put out another great video today.
I need to watch it. I'm so behind on video watching.
Yeah, fortunately his aren't too long, so not too hard to watch.
No,
It's just
no.
long enough, you know.
Mine's been a lack of time. They
Yeah.
only make 24 hours in a day, and or only have 24 hours in a day.
Dennis Hedrick
Um,
in the house.
Rose was supposed to show up. She said she'd be a little late. So,
Well, she is.
yeah, that she is. That she
Yes,
is.
she is. And then
Like,
for all our lurker friends out there,
like Ert
Two Toes, you're
Radio.
out there lurking, and Jeff, and you know,
That's
whoever else is out there, maybe
What's
Jeff
on
Williams.
radio.
It's hard telling. You know, we do have a few lurkers, Chris Bogas, Polly,
Yeah.
the world famous Two Toes and Smith's Gold, and our good friend and brother, Top Cat.
Oh, look, David Villa. He decided not to lurk tonight.
It's good, good. That's okay.
I never really consider him much of a lurker, anyways.
David Villa?
Yeah.
No, no.
He says he lurks, but he's always
He ends up jumping in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something stirs him up. He comments.
Well, let's pin up our guest, and
Absolutely.
I don't think we have him for the full show tonight. I know he's a busy man.
Okay, well, let me say real quick, hello to Big Red Bullion. Hello.
Welcome, Big Red. Welcome.
Welcome, Paleo Joe.
How's it going?
All right.
You guys
It's been a
keeping out of
while.
trouble? You guys
Yeah,
keeping out
we've
of
been
trouble?
saying we haven't been getting caught anyways.
No, okay.
I'm
hear a lot-
always in trouble. Ask Ruby, right, Ruby?
Right,
It's all Ed's fault, right, Ruby?
right.
You weren't expecting an argument, were you, Ed?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
You know what they say? If you
I
can't,
won't let you forget, Ed. I'll keep reminding you
Oh, thank you very much, Ruby.
anytime.
So, Joe, what have you been up to? It's been about 2 years now since you've been on the show?
It's been quite a while. Half of it's
Yeah.
been taken up by this stupid thing called COVID, but
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Haven't done a lot, a lot of digging, a lot of traveling because of that, but been doing a lot of stuff here in Michigan. I've been updating my website. We've got an online store now. But I hear you got a lot of gold prospectors and prospectors. I don't know how much they're going to be interested in my fossils I got here, but
Well,
we'll talk a little bit about fossils.
Well, I think we mentioned this before when you were on. We're gold prospectors, but in the process of looking for gold, we look at rocks. We find fossils by the ton some places,
fossils hold.
and so it piques our curiosity is what we're finding. So it's part of, and we consider it a treasure also. It's treasure hunting.
Yeah, it's my kind of treasure. I've been collecting
Right,
since I was a
exactly.
kid.
So
And, when I was 10 years old, I'd go out in the hills in New York State near Niagara Falls, and I'd find these really weird creatures, in the rock, and that kind of got me started. And
Sure.
We didn't have any dinosaur bones. We didn't have any dinosaurs in New York, so I collected things that were in those ancient tropical oceans that once covered New York. And actually, those ancient tropical oceans covered most of the central Midwest. All the way up all the way up to Canada, all the way down towards Arkansas. That was all the central seaway at one point, and even before that, we had a couple of oceans that kind of crossed over us. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, New York, Michigan. All these states were underwater during different periods of time of our Earth's history.
one of our favorite places in southern Ohio where we go, there's just tons of fossils.
Yeah.
You know, everywhere.
Yeah,
So
down by
we do have an interest in it, you know?
yeah, down by Cincinnati, there's a lot, near Mount
Right.
Orab, Miamisburg, you go to St. Leon, Indiana. That was all ancient tropical ocean. You know, you kind of think of maybe the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. That's kind of what that area looked like, you know, millions and millions of years ago. Here in Michigan, most of what we have is Devonian in age, which is about, it goes back about 380 million years, which is long before, you know, many land creatures that we had. Everything was alive, was in the oceans. And that's kind of what I study. I do dig dinosaurs. I went out to South Dakota 2 years ago with my daughter. We were digging in the Hell Creek Formation. I found a bunch of turtle parts. They were fairly large turtles back then. They were, you know, 6 feet in diameter. My daughter found a really nice hadrosaur tail chevron. And the chevron, you know, you've got the central part, we call it the centrum of the backbone, and then you've got a process goes up, and then from the bottom there's another process comes down. She found
Right.
that bottom part, and those are the bones that actually attach the muscles to the tail, so the tail can wag back and forth. So she found one of those. We found lots of stuff. We found some hadrosaur teeth. I mean, it was just a great time, and it was in South Dakota. So we do travel and do other things. One of the big things that I love to do, and a lot of your guests are from out west, there's a place called Kemmerer, Wyoming. It's in the southwestern corner of Wyoming, and it's a pay-to-dig site. It's like $75 for half a day, but that's where you get all those beautiful fossil fish. And the
Cool.
fossil fish you find there, you get to keep every fish you find. I don't care how big it is. You know, it could be 2 feet long. It could be a little tiny minnow. Whatever fish you find, you get to keep that. And they're beautifully preserved. Basically, you don't have to do much. You go to the quarry, it's the Warfield Quarry, and if you're interested, it's the fossil safari, if you want to Google them. And what they do is they break the rock off the side of the cliff, and they let you go up to the cliff and break some off yourself. Then you flip it on its end and you tap it really light. When you do that, natural fissures open up in the rock. As you put your chisel and smack it with a hammer, it opens up, and a lot of times there's something inside. There could be something as simple as fish poo or scales, but sometimes there's some really good looking fish inside there too. So again, a lot of places around the country to find really great fossils. Utah, again, a great place to find pretty much everything from the beginning of time, from the Cambrian explosion all the way up to the Ice Age and modern times. They've got rocks of those ages somewhere in Utah. So Utah is a great place to go as well. Just lots of nice stuff.
That's one of the places you visit quite often, isn't it?
Yeah,
Utah?
I've been going to Utah, do some dinosaur digging out there for the last 15 years. We've got a site down in Hanksville in the south central Utah. We've been finding long neck dinosaurs there. We found 4 different species: Camarasaurus, Barosaurus, Diplodocus, and Apatosaurus. And we found some Stegosaurus material. There's been some Ankylosaur material, the guys with the clubs on the end of their tails. There's been some Allosaur, some meat-eating dinosaur material found there as well. Actually, one of my proteges, a girl that I've been kind of taking around the country with her parents, showing her different fossil sites. She's actually in Eastern Tennessee State University right now, studying to be a paleontologist. And when she was out there, she found part of a skull of an Allosaurus. So that just kind of kept her going. So she's now going to become a paleontologist. And one other kid that I met when he was about 10 years old, his parents brought him up to one of my digs in Michigan. And again, his parents are very supportive. I took him and his parents around the country, and he graduated last year with a degree in paleontology. So I'm pretty pleased that I've been able to, you know, spark an interest in some of the youth around the country.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
That's neat.
That's like like a youth football coach having one of his boys make it to the pros, you know?
Yeah, but my team's pretty small. It's not as big.
Yeah, well, hey, no, trust me, most coaches' teams are pretty small.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's nice. It's nice to be able to spark someone's interest, and that's kind of what I try to do.
Yeah,
I don't know how many of your people listening right now. I don't even know how many are on right now, but I do lead some digs across the state of Michigan. I lead them in the summertime, and they're basically family digs. They're beginning digs to get kids interested. You know, usually elementary school kids. I do get a lot of adults that come out there first time collecting fossils, and they find lots of what we call brachiopods or seashells. They find corals, and I brought a couple of things with me today too. Corals are creatures that live on the bottom of tropical oceans, many millions of years ago. And we still have corals today. And there's really two kinds of corals. There's something called a solitary coral. It grows by itself. And then there are colony corals. And this one right here, this just happens to be a solitary coral. It grows by itself on the bottom of the ocean. And it's an animal. Up here at the top, it would have tentacles that stuck up in the water. And as stuff would float by in the water, those tentacles would grab that food and bring it down inside into the middle right there. So this is a solitary coral. It started its life as a free-floating larva. It'd kind of like float through the water and attach itself to a rock or something, then it would start to grow. It's got a hard exoskeleton on the outside. That's what gives it its shape. And the only part of the coral that was actually the creature was up here right at the top. And as it grew, it would lay down a basement, just keep growing, and it would have those feathered fingers. So that's a solitary coral. And that's from here in Michigan.
So is that like a horned coral?
Yeah, that's a horned coral. Yeah, that's one of the
Is that what it
common
is? Yeah,
coral. Yeah,
it's a horned coral.
and then
We we find them, they're about maybe that big.
Here
Yeah,
in
right.
Ohio, yeah.
a
Yeah,
lot of times what happens is a lot of stuff, because we were a tropical ocean, there are a lot of storms like hurricanes. And when a hurricane comes close to land, it churns up the water, it kind of destroys the ecosystem, and then it hits the land and it washes out what we call a slurry of mud and sand and all kinds of stuff,
Right.
clay, washes it out into the ocean and covers up all these creatures and begins the fossilization process. Well, then the ecosystem starts to recover again, it starts to grow, and these creatures come back and more creatures come in, inhabit that area. Then here comes another storm and it destroys the whole ecosystem again. And the closer you are to shore, the smaller the fossils tend to be. The deeper the water, the larger they are. That one's probably, came out of some deeper water. But, a lot of you people, when you go around to rock shows, you see these really cool rocks, and people call these things Petoskey stones. Well, this is what we call hexagonary coral. This is not a Petoskey stone. It's not a Petoskey stone until you slice it, polish it, and charge people lots of money for it. And it's formed like this. It's called hexagonary coral. So again, this is a coral, a colony coral. It grows together in large colonies. Every one of these little indentations here had a tiny little creature with those tentacles that stuck up in the water. And again, these guys grow the same way. They start life as a free-floating larva until they can attach themselves to a rock. Right here on the bottom, right there is the starting point. And once they start to grow, they reproduce asexually, which means they send out buds. So as a colony coral, they start sending out buds in a concentric ring like this, just keep budding bigger and bigger and bigger, and they just grow into these giant colonies. We park our car in one of the quarries that we went to. We'd park our car in a colony like this that's 25 feet in diameter. That was a really old coral. So again, this is what made up some of the coral reefs that are here in Michigan, New York, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and even down further south. In Georgia, Alabama, we find corals like this. We find trilobites and seashells and things that grew in those ancient tropical oceans. So really, you can find a lot of stuff all over. Kentucky, Tennessee. I mean, I'm missing a couple of states, but you can see that this was quite a large area that was inundated by water time and time and time again. So a lot of fun to find these kind of things. And I brought lots of other stuff as
Oh,
well.
I love it when I find fossils. I think everyone in this chat room likes fossils and rocks.
right. And our chat room is pretty diverse. They're from southern part of the country, out west, up north, around the world.
Michigan,
Australians.
Ontario, New York.
Yeah, I mean they're
That's why I'm trying to mention a lot of the different states where we find these fossils. They're not just
Right.
located one little spot. They're located all over the world. I mean, down in Florida, there's some great locations in Florida where we find lots of Pleistocene or Ice Age material. We're finding giant megalodon teeth, giant shark's teeth. We're finding all kinds of stuff, basically all over the country. Pennsylvania has got the Pennsylvanian ferns. I mean, those things we've also seen in rock shops, those black pieces of shale with those white ferns on them.
Right.
Pennsylvania's got fossils. Out in Washington State and Oregon, there's a lot of stuff out there as well.
I
We find a
was
lot of
gonna
crab
say
fossils.
back home in Washington, I'd find ferns and pond frond leaves and
Yeah, stuff all over. Well, one of the other things that I really started looking at recently, there's a place in Rochester, New York. It's a Silurian deposit. Silurian was an age way back when we were covered by water. We have some Silurian rocks in Indiana, in southern Indiana, a little bit, just touching a little bit of Ohio. New York has got a lot of Silurian in age. And there, it was kind of the same thing. And the fossils are created kind of the same way, no matter where you are. There's got to be a lot of water, because in the water, there's a lot of minerals that are suspended in solution. And everything's got to have a hard part of some sort to become a fossil. And what happens is when this thing is buried, it starts to decay or decompose, and those minerals in the water just start to replace what's rotting away. So that's why after all this time, we actually have a lot of fossils. So the other thing, in New York, we've got those Silurian age rocks, and there's a special part in Middleport, New York, that was discovered while they were digging the Erie Canal. They were digging the Erie Canal from Albany over towards Buffalo. As they got through Rochester area, and then Middleport and Lockport, they're digging through the sediment of really beautiful, thin, fine-grained gray shale. And as they're digging through it, they're breaking it open, and there's all kinds of really weird things inside that rock. Some of those things were trilobites, some of those things were crinoids, and they're just really beautiful things. And starting back then, we had people just kind of crawling all over the rocks looking for stuff. Well, I've been starting to collect a lot of Rochester shale material, and let me try to do this right here. This here, that's a crinoid. That one is an Ichthyocrinus crinoid. And crinoids are animals. They're animals. They're echinoderms. They're related to basically related to starfish, sea urchins, and things like that. And that thing, although it looks like a plant, it's actually an animal. It's called a crinoid. It's Ichthyocrinus. The crinoids are made up of a couple different parts. It's made up of something we call a holdfast. A holdfast is kind of like a root system. So forget what I just said. They're not roots because these are not plants. These are animals. The holdfast is a system that actually attaches the creature to the bottom of the ocean, to the substrate, to a rock, to another creature. Then there's that big, tall stalk. We don't call it a stem because it's not a flower. It's a stalk. At the top of that stalk, there's a ball. That ball is something we call a calyx. On top of the calyx are the feathered fingers, where this creature actually grabs its food and brings it down inside. Again, remember, this thing's an animal. Lots and lots of different species of crab.
Everybody's talking about the fossils they have on their desk and by their computers. Like I said, out doing prospecting, even metal detecting, we are, first of all, we're looking at the ground, so you're seeing this, and we do collect most anything because we're weird that way.
That's why we've wanted you on a couple of times, Joe, because we all dig fossils, and along with our rocks and gold, and I absolutely find paleontology a fascinating science.
It is. It's pretty fascinating to see what was alive back then. A lot of times when you break open a rock, you're the first person to see that in millions of years. And that's what's so exciting about it. But again, this thing here is unique because this was knocked over by a storm surge that came into the land, picked up that mud and slurry and brought it back out. On here, there's also another thing. This thing right here, that's called a cystoid. It's very similar to a crinoid. It's the same thing. It's an echinoderm. It's a member of the echinoderm family. It's got these long arms that it captures the food, brings it down inside that ball right there. Again, it's a different species, different kind, different genus of creature, but it's still a kind of creature that lived attached to the bottom of the ocean floor. In that same quarry, we find lots of trilobites as well. We find the famous Arctoneris, which is a trilobite about yay big, and we find smaller trilobites called calamini. So what we see there is an entire ecosystem. Everything that was alive in that water when that storm hit and washed all that mud and clay out into the shallow tropical seas and lagoons, it captured everything the way it died back then. So really kind of interesting. And there's a couple other ones. This one I brought out earlier when before we went online. This one comes from a place in Illinois called Crawfordsville. Very, very famous location for crinoids. And this is another one right here. This one is absolutely gorgeous. There's a coral right down here at the bottom. There's a coral at the top. So again, when a storm comes over, it just kind of pushes things along with the water column and things get mixed up. Right. Well, the stem is right there. I call it a stem. It's a column. It's a stalk. The stalk is right there. Then the ball is right here, the calyx, and it's got these feathered arms right there. I'm going to try to come in as close as I can. I don't know if you can see those little hair-like structures there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those little
Oh,
hair-like
yeah.
structures. Those are called pinnules, and that's actually the part of the creature that captures the food. On those pinnules are little tiny tube feet. And well, if you see a starfish walking across an aquarium somewhere, you see all those little tiny feet. That's the kind of
Right.
same thing they've got. So they capture that food with those tube feet, and they feed it to the middle of the arm, and then it goes down the channel using cilia, and the cilia kind of move it down to where the mouth is and the creature can eat. So really, it's kind of exciting. One more thing I want to talk about before I move on from these guys is in
Well,
nature. In nature, there's a symbiosis. There are creatures that rely on other creatures to live and survive, and they can only survive when they're together. Really good symbiosis. Sometimes it's parasitic, sometimes that one creature is taking nutrition from another one, but sometimes they're quite symbiotic. It's very difficult to see on this one. I wish you could see it better. But what happens is these crinoids, they've got a mouth, but they also have a butt. They have what's called an anal tube because it has to get rid of waste products. Every creature on Earth, even plants, have to get rid of waste products. So
we're
what
all
happens
tubes.
what happens is this is a gastropod right here. The gastropods actually attach themselves to the anal tube of the crinoids, and they feed off what the crinoids are expelling. So those creatures are actually symbiotic. Many times when we find them preserved like this, we will find a gastropod, a snail, attached to the anal tube of a crinoid. So really cool symbiotic creatures. I'll let you guys talk for a while.
Well, I got a question. So you said that in order to form a fossil, you need water, right?
Yep.
Okay, so, and I know that at one point most of the country or all the country was underwater, right? At different times.
Yep.
So in an area like, let's say the Midwest here, where we find a lot of those types of little creatures, do you also find the bigger dinosaur bones around here? Or are those found?
Not around here.
Right. Okay. So is that because of the area and climate that was in this area as compared to what it was like where there was dinosaurs?
Hasn't a mastodon been found in Ohio and Michigan?
Giant sloth was found not far from me, up above where I live.
Yeah, and those aren't dinosaurs, though. Those are mammals. Those are creatures that lived during the last ice age. Let me try to explain that question. The fossilization process is very unique. There are other ways that fossils can be formed by freezing, by falling into La Brea tar pits, by amber, but most of the time it's by mineral replacement. It's got to be changed into a mineral. That mineral can then withstand the test of time. So yeah, water is very critical. Most of what we find at one time was in water, and a lot of the stuff we're finding are actually marine creatures. So they get buried while they're in the water, then they get replaced. A lot of the dinosaur material we're finding out west is found by the banks of a stream, or maybe the fish thing in Kemmerer, Wyoming. That was a lake that was there. So what happens is these creatures, fall down near a river, near a stream, near a lake. They get picked up and deposited in water. Again, they get covered up, and then over a very long period of time, it gets inundated with water, and the water goes away, and then maybe the water comes back, water goes away, and as the thing is rotting underground, those minerals in that water are replacing the actual the bone. Now, we don't find many dinosaurs in the Midwest. First of all, because we were underwater during a lot of the time of the age of dinosaurs, but we're now starting to find some. We're finding some in Arkansas. There's a new raptor they're discovering down there. So it just depends on how deep you're going. Are you getting to the right rocks? Out in Connecticut and New Jersey, we're finding lots of dinosaur trackways. We're not finding dinosaurs, but we're finding their trackways. So obviously the dinosaurs didn't die in the perfect place to become fossils. They died in a high ground, or maybe a scavenger came by, a dinosaur dies, and a scavenger comes by and tears it apart, and there's nothing left. That kind of stuff happens today. A deer dies out in the woods, or a hunter shoots one and it goes out and it dies. They can't find it. Right. Scavengers like coyotes will come by, or wolves, and they'll tear that whole thing apart and it's gone. So again, the creatures are torn apart. They can't become fossils. Now, we have mammoths and mastodons that are found in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, New York. Those are ice age creatures. Did we have dinosaurs here? It's possible, but we had something called an ice age. The Ice Age came down across Canada. And according to some geologists' ideas and opinions, there was 2 miles worth of ice over top of New York City, Buffalo, Chicago, Detroit, 2 miles of ice. Well, as that ice came down, it scraped away lots and lots of sediment and dumped it and buried a lot of that stuff that might have had dinosaurs, buried it in lots and lots of sediment. So we can't get to those locations. The reason in the Alpina I'm finding so many beautiful fossils from the oceans is when the Ice Age came by, it scraped away all that dirt that might have had dinosaurs in it and scraped it away, exposing rocks that were 380 million years old. Those Devonian 385, 390 million year old rocks that have those ancient coral reefs in them where we find these seashells and corals and crinoids. So the Ice Age got rid of everything. There's nothing there. There's a spot up there. I'm flapping my gums too much. There's a spot.
No,
No
you're
worries.
doing fine. You're doing fine.
Jesse
trust me.
likes
But
that.
I do have a couple questions here because people are asking questions
Sure.
about. Well, I think you answered the one question. Somebody asked if those were actual fossils or were they
Castings.
they're
They're cast. Yeah.
castings?
Yep, they're
Ca-
castings.
they're
Very rarely
castings.
do we actually have the real fossil. Again, where you get the real bone material is a place like La Brea tar pits, where you get the real bone materials up in Siberia where the fossils have frozen. That's usually where you find the good bone material.
Right.
Anything else is basically a casting. If it's found in rock, it's a casting.
Okay, so it's found in rock. It's a casting, but it's a mineralized casting,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So because I watched some of your videos where you're cleaning up and getting rid of the host rock from around them, and then do you coat those afterwards, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I wish we had hours and hours to talk.
Oh, I'm sure.
What we do,
And I'm sure you could go for hours.
we do have some liquids that we do use. When we're in the field, we have something we call a stabilizer because those bones are extremely brittle. This is a part of an ankle of a hadrosaur. This is an ankle bone right here. You see all the cracks there? This stuff is extremely brittle. Out in the field, you try to pull this out of the ground, it's going to fall apart into hundreds of pieces. So what we do is we have a chemical we call a stabilizer. We make it ourselves, and we apply that to the bone and around the bone. That will then solidify and harden that bone so it doesn't break, doesn't fall apart. And then we can, cast it, jacket it, and remove it. As you can see, I'm in my studio. One good thing that happened during COVID is I started doing Zoom programs and started doing a lot of virtual stuff. So I built myself a studio in one of my bedrooms. But anyway, this is a plaster jacket. I just lost a piece of bone. What we do is we stabilize the bone inside, and you can see how broken it is. It's all cracked up, and it's moving right there. So what happens is this stuff is broken. We have to stabilize it, put a plaster jacket on it, and then bring it back to the lab. And as we clean it, we also put on more stabilizer, or we do actually use different kinds of glue. Let me pick up this piece of bone.
Okay.
We do actually
pick up your bone.
We do actually use different kinds of glue, and a lot of those we make ourselves. We have one we call Vinac. Vinac is a mixture of plastic beads and acetone. You mix those together, it creates a really nice liquid. When you put the liquid on the bone, the acetone evaporates very quickly, leaves the plastic behind after it filled in some of those hollow spots within that bone. So that stabilizes and repairs the bone. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we can apply to these things that make them a lot stronger because they will fall apart. So yes, we do have some stuff that we put on the bones. Sorry about that. Long-winded answer.
No worries.
No, that's works for me. Let me tell you. So Ohio Relic Hunter has a question here. What's the relative age of the coral that you held up? 400 million.
About
380 million years old.
385, 390, 380. We always say plus or minus 2 million years because when you get there, it's kind of a crapshoot there. But yeah, the age is right around Devonian in age, 385, 390 million years.
See, so you guys, that is before me.
Just a little.
Well, this is one right here. This is a Triceratops vertebra. Back it up a little bit, and this one got in South Dakota. And this is the centrum I was talking about before, the middle part. Right there, the
Right.
hole, that's where the spinal cord went through. Then these are some of the processes where the tail muscles were attached. There's a piece that's missing right here. It should have been there. It's gone. It got broken away. I had to actually break this thing into 3 sections in order to clean it. I broke off the top of it. I broke out the middle, and then I broke off the entire bottom of it in order to clean it and prepare it. So yeah, once I break it, I got to glue it back together. But it came together beautifully. And any cracks that we have, there's a putty that we use. It's a 2-part putty. You mix it, the hardener and then the actual putty. You mix it together, and you can actually fill those cracks. And I tell you, you probably can't see them from there because it's on camera, but I dare you to see where the cracks are where I filled them. That's how good this putty is. So actually, this has been broken many times in order for me to clean it. But this is a Triceratops vertebra that I cleaned about 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
Now, I talked a little bit about the Ice Age stuff. One thing is,
we love the Ice Age here in Ohio.
yeah. Well,
that's what brought us our gold.
You guys have a creature called Castroides ohioensis, which is actually the name of a beaver. And the beavers back then were about as big as a black bear. There's a couple of guys that found complete skeletons of this beaver. It has the same kind of teeth, same kind of skull, but the teeth are between 5 and 6 inches long. They're giant teeth. To illustrate that point, I'm a deer hunter. I do some deer hunting. I eat the meat. I don't throw any of it away. This is a vertebra from a modern deer. This is about the size of the backbone of a modern deer that you see running across the streets or running across a farmer's field or maybe a hunter on a buck pole. Well, back during the Ice Age, the deer were just a little bit different. This is the same bone from the same part of the deer as this one, but it's just a little bit different.
Nice.
Wow.
That's a prehistoric deer. This one is called, actually the common name they call this one is Irish elk. It wasn't an elk, it wasn't a moose, this was a giant deer. And if you look at it, it's almost identical to the modern deer bone right there. So again, we've had some creatures here that were quite large during the Ice Age. And those things can be found in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, New York. And again, they're found, and they're found fairly close to the surface, but everything between the Ice Age and about 350 million years, that's all been gone, pushed away. Do you have some more questions?
That's not a beaver, that's a deer, guys.
Yeah, that's a giant. That's a giant deer. Yeah, the beaver was about the size of a black bear.
Yeah, that would be. I agree. That would be one hell of a backstrap, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. Brewers prospecting.
Were there any other questions on the chat?
So I'm sure. Yeah, Jared says in Ice Age, the deer hunted you.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, I can't remember what airport. I do a lot of traveling, obviously, to go around all these states digging up fossils. There's an airport, and I think it might be Minneapolis, where they have one of these giant deer on display, and the antler, the rack, is just absolutely humongous. It's like 8 feet long. It's just a beautiful rack, giant deer. There's also other creatures we've had around, the mammoths and mastodons. They were here at different times. They overlapped a little bit, but the last creatures that lived here were the giant mastodons that lived in, well, I'm talking Michigan now.
Mm-hmm. So,
Ken, I see Practical. Yeah, Practical Ken's got a thing up there. He's found some coprolites and fish in the gypsum mine in Grand Rapids. Yeah, there's a gypsum mine over in Grand Rapids. I got to stop drinking pop. Gypsum mine in Grand Rapids, and unfortunately they closed it to the public. But before, you used to be able to get in there, and you'd find shark coprolites, you'd find shark's teeth and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
The gypsum are the remains of those little tiny microscopic things called diatoms, and things live and die in the ocean. They die and fall to the bottom, and if a shark dies, it falls to the bottom. Sharks, you don't get cartilage; it preserves. Only the teeth preserve. So this stuff keeps falling down and covering these things up, and over time, it made what people call gypsum. And another way to tell that we were once a bottomless shallow tropical sea is Detroit. Detroit is built on a salt dome. Underneath Detroit is all salt. Where'd that salt come from? It came from the ancient oceans. So again, reading the rocks, and you guys do it all the time. You look at the sand And you can tell that there's gold there by looking at the color of the sand. We can tell what fossils are like. We can read the history of those fossils by looking at the rocks. The rocks actually tell us a story. Same thing when you're digging gold. That gold will tell you a story. It tells you where it came from, how it got there.
And the ground tells us where it could be.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
just by looking at it.
Has
Okay,
there-
so you see that?
Yeah, no such thing as giants. The really cool story here comes a really good one. You could get people who could care less about fossils to start following you. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I kind of try to make it exciting. We didn't have giants. If you think about large creatures, Neanderthals were a little bit bigger than we were. You think about the Maasai tribes in Africa, they're really tall, but we also have the pygmies of Africa that are really small. Java man was actually a very small creature. We didn't have anything like a giant. The biggest creatures we had were not much bigger than we are. We actually are a fairly large species of our own. You can tell I'm kind of pretty large. I like my food, but there was basically, these are myths and legends from way back when, before we had paleontologists and scientists. There were people that created this myth of a creature called Cyclops. Cyclops was that giant with one eye in the middle of his head. That's not a real man. What they did is they were out doing whatever, they're hunting, gathering, whatever, and they found this giant skull. It was a huge skull, and right in the middle was a giant hole. And they found these really big, long teeth. And if you look at some Bible reconstructions, or you look at some of the myths and legends, you'll see the Cyclops had, long teeth right here. Well, they found all these bones and they put them back together to make it look like a human, because that's what we knew. They put the skull on top, they put the ribs here, they put the arms out and the legs down. But what they found was actually an elephant. And elephants have that giant trunk. That giant trunk, that's what that hole is right there for. That's where the trunk was. But again, ancient people didn't know any better. They thought that was one eye. So that's where the legends of the giants and Cyclops came from. Elephants got those tusks. That's why they put the teeth right here on the Cyclops. Same thing in China. In China, about 5,000 years ago, Chinese were discovering these giant bones in the ground. They had no scientists, no paleontologists. They came up with the myths and legends of dragons. In England, in the Middle Ages, they found these giant bones where they're digging coal. They needed the coal to fire their furnaces to keep their houses warm, but they're finding these giant bones. They came up with the myths and legends of dragons because there was nobody there to tell them what they were. So I diverted again a little bit there, but yeah, that's how we get some of these things. They were giants. Well, they weren't giants. It's just something different.
That's how we got diverted from just gold to other treasures.
Well, I'll tell you what, before I bore everybody completely out of here, if you guys want to do something for me, I do have a Facebook page. It's Paleo Joe, PALEOJOE. You can see it on the screen there. And I can't take any more friends. I've reached Facebook's limit of 5,000. But if you want to follow me, what I'm doing right now is called Fossil of the Day. Starting back in October, I started doing a different kind of fossil every day. And every day I post something about a different kind of fossil. Today, I posted about a turtle piece I found out in South Dakota. Tomorrow, I'm going to post about my daughter finding some stuff in South Dakota too. But every day I post a different kind of fossil, from seashells to corals to trilobites to triceratops bones. I post something every day. I started that when COVID really started to hit. When we all got stuck, we all had to stay home. You couldn't go out anywhere. Right. I did 90 days in a row of Fossil of the Day. And about once a week, once every 2-3 weeks, I did a little short video just for the kids to get them interested in paleontology, to keep them from just watching TV or playing Nintendo or Wii or whatever they're playing. I wanted them to get some sort of education out of it. So I started doing my Fossil of the Day way back when during COVID. And then I did some fossil videos. A lot of my fans keep yelling at me, say, hey, do more videos. I just wish I had the time. Recently, we just opened up our store. We have an online store. It's on my website, paleojoe.com. If you go to the Dropbox area, go all the way to the right, there's a little red box that says shop. If you click on that, it gives you all the different categories that we have. But we've got hundreds and hundreds of fossils that we're selling right now. And I'm just trying to keep up putting these fossils online so the public can buy them. Just today, I posted a whole bunch of trilobites from around the world. I posted some, I've got some dinosaur teeth out there, some ginkgo leaves. insects from the Green River Formation in Wyoming. Some of the fossil fish that we found from Kemmerer, Wyoming, are on that website. So if you're interested in, we might still have some time before Christmas to get somebody that real special Christmas gift, or even something for yourself. You can order right straight through the website. We use the website does everything. We never see your credit card information or anything. The website takes care of all that, and we'll pack it up and ship it out to you. Hopefully get it to you before Christmas. But I've been working really hard on the website, on the store. Again, the website is designed for people to get on there and just look at it and see what fossils are about.
And that's at www.paleojoe.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jared put it out there.
Yeah,
He
you go to
put the link out.
paleojoe.com, you'll find the store, you'll find TV shows, radio shows, you'll find some stories on there. I've got all different descriptions of fossils. In the middle of the page, I've got where we're going to be next for rock shows, mostly here in the Midwest. And also, here, time to beat my own drum here. In 2001, I won the Catherine Palmer Award from the Paleontological Research Institute in New York for the work I do with fossils. And this year, 2021, I won the Charles Sternberg Medal from the Association of Applied Paleontological Sciences. So I got an award back in 2001.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
No doubt.
And again, that one was basically for my educational opportunities I'm affording to the public. A lifetime achievement award, I guess.
Very cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can speak for the chat too when it seems like everybody's actually pretty enthralled. You've apologized a couple times, but you've got everybody listening. It's almost like taking a master class.
Well, thank you, thank you. You can tell I love what I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that's how I found you, because I was looking up something on some fossil I found on Facebook, and I come on your page. Actually, I was on another page, and everybody kept going, check out Paleo Joe, check out Paleo Joe every time somebody would ask something.
And
so
then you came to the rock show in Toledo and you saw me.
Right, that's right. And then you came on the show, and it's been fun. I catch. Fortunately, I think I'm one of your friends on Facebook, because I get notifications. You pop up with your fossil of the day every once in a while. Yeah, so that's cool. But yeah, I've always liked fossils. They've always intrigued me.
Me too.
Just
I was.
It intrigues me like that brown paper bag sitting on the side of the road as I'm driving by. Going, I wonder what's in that bag. But
Terry, Terry would like to know how old you were when you first got hooked.
About 10 years old. Again, growing up in New York State, New York was very fossil rich, and I go out into the woods and find these really crazy little things on rocks, and that's where I started looking for fossils. And I basically done it my whole life. I spent 8 years in the military. I graduated college. I went to ROTC, so I became an officer. Why, I don't know. But I spent my career, most of it over in Europe. And when I got out of the Army, I went right back into it again. So I've been doing paleontology my whole life. And now my daughter's taken over for me. So this old fossil, when he retires, I've got another person going. And my grandson, Joey, maybe he'll be another Paleo Joey.
Paleo Joey. That almost sounds Australian. So we got any more questions in here? Anybody else got some questions for Joe? Ed,
I brought some show and tell.
Open up you want to take some questions or
sure,
see if anybody calls in?
Yeah, we can.
Absolutely. I can keep flapping my gums until somebody has a question. Maybe they'll start asking questions, so I shut up.
I'll put the link down in the live chat and
right.
See you.
So I have and I had my dates mixed up. I thought you were going to be on next week. I don't remember if this was going on. If I told you about my neighbor across the street who has a pile of sand that was fill. It was fill dirt from a really old gas station. So they pulled it out, and it was all sand and rocks. And I'm looking at the rocks, and it's just full of tiny little fossils.
Yeah,
I was gonna grab some up for the night's show, but I was thinking it was next week.
yeah.
I don't
There's a
have
couple
them.
places like that. Aurora, North Carolina. There's the Fisk Fossil Museum there. They go out and I don't know where they dig it, but they dig a bunch of fossil-rich sediment. They bring it to the museum and dump it. Then they let people dig through it. And the kids are finding shark's teeth, stingray barbs, pufferfish jaws, all kinds of stuff in there. And again, it's very rich sediment. And there's some places around the world that are like that. Not everywhere. You're not going to find fossils everywhere. But where you do find them, you usually find a substantial amount. Again, because the fossilization process is so unique that that's where the fossils are and that's where they've been made and that's where you're going to find them. And again, right now, some of the paleontologists in Arkansas are getting into the layers where they're finding dinosaur stuff in Arkansas. So at one point, there was a spot of land up above the water and dinosaurs lived there.
So you mentioned the La Brea tar pits earlier. Now,
California.
those bones they pull out of there, those are actual bones, right?
Yeah, and I'm looking for some of my La Brea material. I don't have it here in the studio. But
That's
yeah,
a cool
anything that
place
I
falls
would
to
have
into
to ask you about that.
anything that falls into the tar pits is going to be preserved basically as bone material. You're not going to find any DNA in it, or if you do, it's going to be very badly degraded. Because in order to preserve DNA, it's got to be preserved in a very specific way, at a very specific temperature, without oxygen. Otherwise, it's going to decay away. But yeah, you find a lot of bone material inside there. And a lot of people think that the saber-toothed cats are the ones that find the most bones, but not really. We find a lot more dire wolves. The wolves back then were bigger than the wolves we have today, much larger. And most of what we find in there are mammoths, mastodons, some saber-tooths, and a lot of wolves. We find birds and other creatures. Now, here's a story. Back then, there's a tar pit. It's just sitting there bubbling. Well, there might be a dust storm. Here comes a dust storm and blows leaves off of trees, and the dust and leaves cover that tar. Now you're a mastodon or a mammoth and you're hungry and you're walking around the area. You don't know what's there. You look down the ground and all you see is a bunch of leaves and dirt and dust. You don't know there's a tar pit there. And you go in and you're walking along and you step in it. Once you step in it, you can't get out of it. It's almost like a seep. So they start sinking in, and the more they struggle, the more they get sucked into the tar. And now the creature dies, or the creature starts to make a lot of noise, and those wolves hear that, or the wolves smell that. Well, what they do is they come running up, and there's this giant creature laying right there. The top of the surface is covered by leaves and dust. They don't know that's tar. They go across it, they get stuck. Or they jump onto the back of the mammoth or mastodon, and they can't get off because they get the tar pits all around them. So that's one of the ways that these things got caught. They didn't know that it was tar. If they knew it was tar, they would walk across it.
So you said this a couple of times tonight so far. It's a little off of subject to the La Brea tar pits. That's its way off. But you mentioned a couple of times the size of the dinosaurs. Do you know why they were so big back then? What was it that made them so big? I mean, you know,
Well, yeah, Mother
no
Nature
competition or what?
Well, Mother Nature is kind of unique. Mother Nature will let nature take its course and do what it wants to do. If the temperature is right, there's enough food, the conditions are right, things will grow large. For example, let's go to the Pennsylvanian period, the Carboniferous period. Again, when we have that great area between Pennsylvania and Illinois where we find all that coal. Back then, it was really hot. The oxygen levels were different than they are today, and insects got really large. We've been finding insects with a wingspan of over 3 feet long. There was a centipede that was over 6 feet long. Those are insects, and they were that large. Today, they're not that big because the temperatures and conditions and oxygen levels are not where they were back then. So if your environment is good, you got plenty of food, the conditions are right, the oxygen is right, the temperature is right, you're going to continue to grow and get bigger, especially when you're talking about reptiles and insects and things like that. Crocodiles and alligators. Right now, they're finding crocs that are much larger than we've been finding in the past because, first of all, unless you're on the what's that show, the gator Swamp People, unless you're on Swamp People and shooting gators all the time, they're going to get big. In Australia, they've started protecting the saltwater crocodiles. They're getting larger and larger and larger. So you see that if you don't hunt them, you don't kill them, reptiles will continue to get large until they finally do die. Think about the Galapagos tortoise. Galapagos tortoise are over 100 years old. And how big are they? They're as big as a dinner table. They're really large. For them, the conditions are right. They've got no hunting pressure. And they just get older and older, larger and larger until they finally do die. So again, dinosaurs got that large because everything was right for them. The temperature conditions, oxygen level, food, everything was right. They got big.
It's kind of, I guess, an example of a modern day example of that would be a goldfish. A goldfish in a little goldfish bowl will only get so big.
Yep.
It can be there forever and only stay so big. But you take that same goldfish and you put it in a bigger bowl, a bigger area, and it grows bigger.
Yeah.
Throw
Throw it out in your pond or throw it in a local
Right,
lake
right.
and you see how big they get. Yeah.
Right. Then they give carp size.
Yep.
You know?
Another modern view of that is here in Michigan, we've got a place called Fort Michilimackinac. It was a fort during the Revolutionary War period. And if you go in there, they reconstructed the rooms and the buildings, and they're all kind of cramped and small. They reconstructed the beds, and the beds were only about 5 feet long. Well, if I were to lay down in that bed, my feet would be sticking off and my head would be sticking off. Back then, human beings were a lot shorter. Well, because we've got good medical attention, because we've got good food and everything is doing well, we are getting to be a bigger and bigger species. We could not live in revolutionary times in their houses, in their homes, in their beds, because everything was much, much smaller back then. You look at some of the uniforms, how small they are. So again, that's kind of a off the wall analogy, but it's kind of true. Because the conditions are right, we're getting to be bigger and bigger people. That wasn't like that back then. Another great example is the Czech Republic. My heritage is Czech. I went back to Prague several times, several years ago. And on top of the mountain there in Prague, in the city, there's this giant cathedral. They started building that cathedral in 600. And right around the Middle Ages, they built the cathedral in a walled fort around it, and they built buildings for the people that lived in that serviced the king and queen. Well, the doors are just a little bit over 4 feet tall. The servants back then were quite small. They didn't get good food. They didn't have good medical attention. And those buildings, they call it, gosh, I can't remember what they call it in Czech, but it's basically that street where all those little houses are. All the doors are very small because, again, the people were so much smaller back then in the Middle Ages. Way off topic.
Anybody got any questions? They want to call in and talk to Joe?
Yeah, I put
I'd put
the
the Zoom
link
number out there.
back out. Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. This is where you get your questions answered.
Yeah, and if they have any questions at all, like I said, go to my website. There's a link there. You can contact me directly. Check out my Facebook page. I'm on Facebook every day, putting on the fossil of the day. Sometimes people, ask questions there as well. So, feel free to check me out. Again, like I said, I apologize. I can't take any more friends. I wish Facebook would open that up a little bit, but I do have a lot of followers, a lot of people just watching the posts every day.
Terry asked, and I'm a fan of this question as well, so we'll touch on it. Do you have a fantasy land that you'd like to go to? Like if you had no restrictions, all the money all the time, where would you be heading?
Wow. I'm a little bit of a history nut. I love history. I love ancient history. Wow. You're putting me on a spot here. I love fossils. I love dinosaurs. I might love to go back to dinosaur times and see what it was like back then. And again, dinosaurs probably wouldn't matter. They wouldn't even look at us because we're so small compared to their size. We wouldn't even be a mouthful for a T-Rex. But then again, I'm really big into history. I'd love to go back in time to ancient Europe and see what the systems were like back then, and even go back to Egypt just to see what it was like. Because I look at some of these ancient cultures, and I'm not a big believer in the ancient alien TV show. Everything's alien. But what was technology like back then? Why? How could the Egyptians build those giant pyramids with?
Or the Incas or the Aztecs?
Yeah, Aztecs. Again, those cultures. Those cultures were so smart with what they did. Machu Picchu in Peru. The buildings are so tight. The seams between the rocks are so tight you can't put a piece of paper in there. So I'm a closet archaeologist.
Rose, I like
Yeah.
that answer. The dude wants a time machine.
I think that's a fantastic answer. When you're given no restrictions, I like that you want to travel in
I
time.
want a time
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Colorado dinosaurs. There's a couple dinosaurs in Colorado. Yeah. There's a couple of formations there. The Morrison Formation in Colorado, gosh, the Judith River area, Red Deer River coming down out of Canada. A lot of dinosaurs in Colorado, mostly the Cretaceous dinosaurs. You'll find T-Rexes there, Triceratops, Hadrosaurs. Colorado is very rich. It just depends on whereabouts in Colorado you are. But again, there's really great dinosaur hunting. Problem is most people can't do it. Because there are laws, federal laws and state laws that forbid you from picking up vertebrate material, bones and things like that, because they're supposed to be important to science. Well, there's two schools of thought on that one. We might get into that in a little bit, but the way to dig dinosaurs is join one of the groups that actually goes out and does it. There's lots of groups out there. One of them is Paleo Adventures. He does his digging in South Dakota, right near Belfort. And you can you'll go digging dinosaurs with him. One of the groups I used to dig with about 15 years ago is the Burpee Museum out of Rockford, Illinois. They go out and they dig in the Morrison Formation in Montana. They also dig in the formation down in Utah, and they charge. You got to pay. I mean, you're not going to go there for free, but you'll pay to go down there. You pay for your own hotel and your travel and stuff. But you will dig dinosaurs. You'll be shoulder to shoulder with paleontologists that are actually doing the work. The one in Utah is one I highly recommend because you will be digging dinosaurs. You will be plaster jacketing bones. You will be using the tools and equipment that paleontologists use. And that's the Burpee Museum out of Rockford, Illinois. And there are others. The one I mentioned before that, Paleo Adventures out of South Dakota. You will be digging dinosaurs. He will teach you what to do. And you will be digging shoulder to shoulder with paleontologists. So there are lots of opportunities to do that. As a private citizen walking around out in the boonies, don't pick up any bones. They've got rangers out on hilltops with binoculars watching you. You pick up something, you put it in your pocket. You may get a visit from a ranger says, "Would you just put in your pocket?" Dinosaur bone, very difficult. You don't really want to pick up any bone material. It gets to be pretty sticky.
So are there clubs all over the country for fossil hunting? I mean, we've got clubs all over the United States on gold prospecting.
Yeah,
just about every state has local prospecting clubs, right?
We have the Midwest Federation. We've got the Southeast Federation. There are a lot of major organizations, and there are clubs everywhere. Off the top of my head right now, I think we got 15 or 20 clubs just here in Michigan. But yes, there are clubs all over the country. And the reason I know that is I've been doing a lot of Zooms recently. I've done a Zoom with Alabama. I've done 2 Zooms with California. One with Arlington, Texas, one with New Jersey, one with Connecticut. I actually got a call from England. They wanted me to do a Zoom program with their fossil club in England, and I did that. I got a call from the Cayman Islands. They wanted me to do one there. I said, "Send me down there. Don't go Zoom. I want to go."
Right.
That one actually,
let me come.
Didn't go,
so anybody, like somebody like me, maybe want to go back and look at my family history, could join a Paleo club, right?
You live in Toledo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Cincinnati's got a great one. It's called the Dry Dredgers. They meet, once a month, and actually, University of Michigan has got one too. It might be a little closer than Cincinnati, but there are clubs all around. And actually, there is a Toledo club too. I don't know.
I know there's a gem and mineral club here in Toledo.
Yeah, and they
I belong to that.
Yeah, they do.
And there's also the fossil dig there in Sylvania.
Yeah.
Is there a club affiliated with that, or
no? That one is a tough one. These places are starting to dry up. The one in Sylvania, they've stopped doing that one because people were sneaking in. And they were getting in the quarry and getting hurt. What the quarry does now is they take a bunch of dirt and they bring it out to a place called Olander Park, and they dump the dirt in Olander. You can go dig through that stuff. You can't use any tools, but you can go to Olander Park and keep all the fossils that you find there, but actually going in the quarry, can't go in there anymore. Most quarries are now shut down. You can't go into quarries because of mining regulations, OSHA regulations, you
Right.
know, federal mining
MSHA.
regulations. Yeah, you can't really go
There's
anywhere.
a quarry north of Van Wert, northwest of Van Wert, Lafarge, and they took a corner of their property and made it a fossil park where they'll bring dump truck loads out and pour them on the ground. Then the one in north of Cincinnati, what's that, Susanville?
I know which one you're talking about. Sharonville.
Sharonville, yes.
Sharonville.
Yeah,
It's Trammell Park in Sharonville. Yeah.
right.
There's a couple of places where you can do that. Yeah. I see there's a question from Ken. Harvesting Petoskey stones on beaches. Get as many as you want. There are so many hexagonaria corals, so many Petoskey stones. Fill a bucket with them. One place I like to go is
about that, Joe. I was wondering if he was asking that about the part vertebrates and stuff being illegal to pick up and stuff.
well, Petoskey stones are not vertebrates. All the invertebrates you can take as much as you want. But when you're talking about vertebrate, you're talking about something that's got a backbone.
Right.
Petoskey stones are coral. So yeah, place I like to go is right up in Petoskey. It's begins with an M. You got me on a. It's getting late. I gotta get my coffee. Well, yeah, up in Petoskey, there's a beach just to the left of the police station. It's a public beach and a public park. It's camping there, and you can collect fossils there. Over by Sunset Park, Sunset Beach, there's a giant rock wall there to hold the lake back. But when the water level is low, you can jump down in the water and walk along that shore, and you'll find a lot of Petoskies there. Around the lake shores of Michigan, you're going to find them. Again, when they're rough like this, they're called hexagonaria coral. Once they get rounded by wind and rain and wave action and sand, then they're closer to Petoskey stones.
We have one around here somewhere. We got a big one around here somewhere.
Yeah, I've got a rock garden outside. I've got a couple of really nice large ones.
Yeah. Yeah, rocks.
You said that you had a couple showpieces. Is that correct? You had a couple of show and tells?
Yeah, you must have missed them all. I've been bringing them up throughout the whole show. I had the crinoids. I had, this guy right here. You didn't see that guy?
No, that's right where I came into.
Right where he came.
And you said you got that in Illinois, correct?
This one came from Indiana, Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, Crawfordsville. It's right near Indianapolis. It's an area again that was devastated by the storms, but the fossilization is beautiful because there was a lot of silt that came in and just knocked everything down and buried it right away. When an animal dies, there's also a lot of scavenger activity, and again, in certain parts like Wyoming, where we find the fossil fish, everything in that ecosystem was killed. So there were no scavengers, there were no shrimp and crabs, tearing apart the creatures. Same thing here, nothing there to disarticulate, to tear it apart. Even the wave action and water action didn't tear it apart. They got buried so quickly. And that's why they're so beautifully preserved like that.
What's your crown gem? What's your very favorite piece that you have?
Don't have one yet. This is one of the crinoid calyxes right there, and there's a couple of cystoids right there. I also have 3 museum exhibits that tour the country. I was a museum director for a bunch of years, and I quit about 20 years ago now. I hated wearing a suit and tie. And because I was a museum director, I learned about how to make museum exhibits. I've got one touring on trilobites, it's called Trilobite Treasures, Arthropods of the Ancient Seas. I've got one called Dinosaur Prep Lab, where I set up a lab in a museum, and periodically I'll go in and I'll clean dinosaur bones for the public. And I've got another one called Fossils of the Michigan Basin. And they're all full of fossils that either I found or got through trading or buying. I myself have found a lot of great stuff. A lot of it is in those exhibits. Right off the top of my head right now, in New York, I found 2 beautiful Delmonites trilobites about that long, and they were side by side. And I'll tell you what, I don't want to mess this thing up. I know how to screen share, but I don't know if I actually have a picture of that one. Why don't you guys talk amongst yourselves for a minute? If I lose you, I apologize.
we already know about each other, so.
All right. I'm a digger. I'm not a tech savvy guy. So let me minimize this and find that picture, and then I'll put it up and we'll screen share and I'll show you. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, okay, but we're gonna be talking to you while you're
Okay.
doing that.
Go for it.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry it was late,
Okay,
guys.
we can
It's
say
okay.
hi to some of our people that showed up here
Lucky
recently. but we
Ducky
haven't
Thomas folks.
seen- Hey, Ray Russo, what's up, buddy?
Ray Hollywood Russo, the star of Frozen Gold. And I saw
Jonathan
Brian
Friend.
Wilder, the star
Yeah,
of Bering Sea Gold on Discovery Channel.
I saw Brian in here. Terry Curry.
Terry
Let's
Marshall,
see.
our friend from Down Under's
Yep,
with us.
Bob McCoy was in here.
Yeah.
yep. Thomas Folks, what's up? And of course, as soon as Joe started talking about, ancient times,
And fossils.
Them
Old Bill
fossils.
Marsh brings you up.
yeah, he's probably old too.
Okay. I'm back for a minute.
Okay, you find
And
it?
yeah, I got it. There's a couple more I'm gonna try to sneak in here too. But there's a deposit near Rochester where we're finding these great creatures, and sometimes they get pyritized. Fool's gold. You guys are into gold. Sometimes I'm into fool's gold. Iron pyrite is a very peculiar metal. When it's exposed to the air, you start getting those beautiful gold flecks. But once it's
Right.
exposed to the air, it starts to deteriorate and turn blue or turn dark, or it starts to rust. Well, fossils sometimes are preserved in gold and in iron pyrite. And I was digging in the area and I broke apart this rock. And inside there, I found a couple of Delmonites trilobites. And let me pull them up right there. Can you see those? No?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we
So
can see them.
Yeah, these are the Delmonites trilobites. They're about 2.5 to 3 inches long. And this rock broke right through here. You can actually see where the crack is right there. And when I broke it open, there were two halves. And one side has got the eyes break off in it, and it's got part of the exoskeleton. Then you've got the other side, the positive side. Well, when this broke open, I saw both of those guys side by side, and it was just one of the nice collection or nice pieces that I found. I also found a part of a dinosaur in Utah, a Camarasaurus dinosaur. I mean, every time I go digging, whatever I'm digging for, that area, one of those becomes my favorite. So really, it's very difficult for me to pick one over another.
Your favorites rotate, huh?
Yeah, kind of. Gosh, there's so many. I mean,
right.
It's tough. Which nugget of yours is your favorite? Which gold nugget do you like? It's hard.
Yeah.
I like them all.
I was gonna say I like them all. I can show you some, but I like well here. I like this, all this fine gold dust and stuff in here. I like that as much as I like these,
But those are more special.
These are more special, but I still like them equally, So it's hard to say.
Those three are his first three.
Those are my first three I ever found.
Wild gold nuggets he captured in California.
Yep. That was a fun trip. My favorites become the ones I just got.
Yeah. Let me see here. I just pulled something else up here. Let me go back to screen share for a second. And sometime in the future, if you guys want, I've got some canned PowerPoint programs that I do that are really educational and informational. And the piece I'm going to show you right now comes from one of those programs. So maybe in the future, if you want me to do one of those, I can do that. But you guys got that? Can you see that or no?
No.
Nope.
No. All right. Start screen share. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's this crazy old gray-haired man right there. And I was working in the sediment, and it's really nice, flat, shale right here. That's a bunch of rubble. That's a rubble pile. As we break it off here, we toss it over our shoulders. Well, right here is the rock that I broke apart. And right there is one of the trilobites. And down below here is another one of the trilobites. And this is a better picture here. There's one of the delmonites, and then there's another delmonites there. And what we do
okay.
when we dig them out, because we don't always do our own preparing, our own prep work. So what I did is I put some registration marks, some red marks right there to show the guy who's going to be doing the prep how it goes back together, because he'll get a box of rocks and he doesn't know what to do with them. So this way we make those registration marks so he knows how to line it up. And there were a bunch more pieces that went with that, but that kind of shows you what we have to do in order to bring them back and put them back together. So
Cool.
that's that one that you saw, the gold one. That's what it looked like when it first came out of the ground.
That's cool. That's, again, you know, we're all interested in fossils because we do come across them.
Yep.
You know, just about every time you go out, we're finding fossils, arrowhead, just, you know, everything.
Right.
And it's nice to know, to be able to have a little more information on what we're finding and how we can keep from destroying it ourselves, because I know that I've destroyed pieces.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've broken a fossil. I can't tell you. It's
Yeah,
sometimes
right.
you put your chisel on that crack and you hit it, and right there happened to be a really great fossil. It's getting late. I got to get out of here. Are there any more questions out there before I run?
You heard them. Anybody? Is there any other questions you like before he has to take off?
Again, if you guys want to,
Okay.
just get on my site,
My wife-
Paleo
My
Joe.
wife has, my wife has one more question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
What's an ammonite? What is that?
Ammonites are a creature called a cephalopod. They're related to modern day octopus and squid. Back then, the ammonites had a hard external shell that held the head and the tentacles and the mouth and the eyes. Today, octopus don't have those. They've kind of lost that shell. They don't need it anymore. Yeah, he's got one. Dano's got one right there. What they are is basically a shelled octopus. We do have a creature today that's very similar to that, the nautilus. It's also a cephalopod, and cephalopod means, cephala means head and pod means foot. So basically these creatures are a head and a foot. The head has got the tentacles and the foot is a little piece that goes inside the body. And the ammonites are just basically shelled octopus. That's a simple way of saying what they are.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
you go. Shell octopus.
So anyway, please feel free to jump on and check out Paleo Joe on Facebook, or go to my website, paleojoe.com. I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you want to see the fossil of the day, jump onto Facebook and you'll see fossil of the day every day.
I put it's pinned up at the top of the chat, Joe. I have your website, your Facebook page, and not your personal page, the other one.
Right. Yeah.
And then I have your YouTube channel up there too. I know several have went over and subscribed. I'm sure you'll have a few new followers over on Facebook, and hopefully someone will be purchasing some fossils from your store.
Well, that'd be nice. Help me get it back out there and dig, get some more money to go out and finance some more digs.
Get some more digging in. Yeah, I hear you.
One of these days, I hope to meet you at a Rock and Gem show like Jesse. I was going to go to that one, but something happened and I didn't make it.
I'll be going to, actually, Toledo this year was down in Bowling Green. They go to the Fulton County Fairgrounds, and we're going to the Fulton County Fairgrounds next year. We'll be in Bowling Green for the Toledo show down there. So anyway, y'all, thanks a lot. I got to run.
Everyone
Appreciate
says
it,
thank
Joe.
you.
Appreciate you
Thank
being
you
here.
very much, Joe.
Take care. No problem. Have fun.
Later.
Oh, here's the sweetie.
A sweetie.
Yeah, Joe's very informative. If you really, if you get into it, go check out his page. And during when you're out prospecting and stuff, and you come across something and you want to find out what it is, you go to his Facebook page and pose the question. And if he doesn't answer it, there's plenty of people, just like on this community, there's plenty of people there that will answer and talk to you about it. So yeah, that's how I met Joe. It's been fun.
Hey,
Very
Colin, how
knowledgeable
you
guy.
doing, Heavy Meadow Detective H. Douglas? Yeah, it was another interesting time. He told me I don't think I'll be able to do the 2 hours with you, and I'm like, hey, whatever you can give us, man, we'll take.
Yeah,
Hey, we almost
it
filled
was
it in two
worth it.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? He really like in the chat, you guys all said it too. He kept you enthralled the entire time. We didn't have to do much talking because he was keeping us entertained the entire time. It was fantastic.
Well, when I met him at the gem show in Toledo that one year, the dude never stopped. I mean, if he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to somebody else. If he wasn't talking to that person, he'd be talking to somebody constant. He had no problem answering questions, just rambling
Well,
on about what they were
that's
talking about.
kind of how it is at shows like that, right, Jesse? What
Hmm.
are we
Yep.
doing when we're in the panning booth or
Oh yeah.
something? Talk,
Yep.
talk, 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 talk.
Absolutely.
Jeff from GoPro Unlimited, he gave us 10 hours of knowledge in 1 hour. Oh, about an
Yeah.
hour and a quarter, Jeff.
Yeah.
Ray Rusa, call in, Brian says. Might have to scroll up for the link. You had your opportunity to call in, Brian.
Hey, James.
Um, and my angry prospector brother, James Van Cleef. Good to see you, brother. Um, Rose, it's good to have you back.
Good to be back. Good to be
Yeah,
back.
how you
Feeling
feeling?
much better. Really good.
Good.
Really, really, really good.
Excellent,
Like
excellent.
I do think so. Next Tuesday is my 6 week marker. I'll be seeing my doctor then, and I feel like I'm gonna get the clear to get out of bed. So I hope he says that everything's good because I feel amazing.
Oh,
Well, that's
that's
good.
good. Just heal, sis. Just
Yeah,
heal.
so tired of it. I'm sick of it, guys. So tired of it. But I see that you got your I'm guessing you got your computer fixed, or did you have to buy something new? Ed?
No, I had another gaming tower which I wasted. When I was transitioning from my laptop to a tower, I tried going what I thought would be a cheaper route, much like Jesse's Avenue with printing stuff. Um, I bought a used gaming tower, which the graphics card was same one I have, but a lot older and no longer updatable, and it needed a bigger power supply and on, and um, I invested in that. I paid. Ooh, don't tell Judy, but I paid like 450 for that tower. Then I put like another 300 into it, and
Wow.
then it was glitching and doing other stuff, and I took it back to the guys and said, "What's up?" And they go, "Well, your tower's actually kind of too old for what you want." And to be honest, I haven't been to Tech Guys in Delphus ever since then, because they could have told me that in the first place,
Yeah, for
and then
sure.
that money could have went into a tower built and bought through them, and not me going somewhere else. So my tower was more or less, instead of costing me $1,000, it cost me 1,700.
Man.
But
Oh man.
I took that tower in with my tower, and I go, I believe it's just the power supply. the way it acted and stuff. I believe it's just the power supply. I have a brand new bigger one in this tower, and if you can use the RAM from this tower and this power supply, you can keep the tower and whatever else you can salvage in it.
Yeah.
That DVD Blu-ray burners, brand new, never used. I got that in that tower too at the same time with the other power supply. And they ended up having it. They were supposed to call me, but I ended up going into their shop, and he's kind of a really great guy, knows his stuff, but he's kind of so smart, nerdy. He's kind of, uh, I guess, forgetful. He's kind of like here, there, over here, and kind of squirrel nerd, you know. So I could understand him forget and call me. He said he was going to call me with the estimate, and I went. I'm like, okay, it's been 3 days. They said they would have called me the next day. I'm gonna go in, and they had it ready for me, and and it was less than $100 in labor.
Nice. Nice.
86.75 or
so
something like that.
so when I was a mechanic, when I was working as a mechanic, the customer I always hated the most, I didn't hate him, but the one that always bugged me the most, I guess, was the guy that come in and tell me what was wrong with his car and told me to fix it.
Fix
And I
it
always thought in my
yourself.
head, well, wait a minute. If you know what's wrong with your car, why aren't you fixing it? You know, why don't you just let me figure out what's wrong? No, I know what's wrong with your car. I know what's wrong with my car. Just fix what I tell you. Okay. Why don't you just let me do the diagnostic on it? No, just fix what I want you to fix.
Okay, and then you fix it, and then he's like, it's still doing the same thing. Why didn't you do what I say? Uh,
Right.
I did do what you said, and it
Exactly.
ain't
But
what
you
you
didn't do what I
said, and you
said.
didn't let me do a diagnostic. So why don't you take it down to Moe's auto down the road? Don't bring it back, type thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I don't know. If I know I told you guys, but my computer crashed last week as well. It crashed out. It just the keyboard wasn't working, so it recommended I try a few things. And when I tried those few things, the screen went black and it never turned back on. And I am talking to you guys on my new Christmas present from my husband, my new fancy spancy laptop.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. I can
pretty
tell it's
stoked.
you. You look new.
It's got Bluetooth capability on it, so I'm now like my speakers are on Bluetooth now. Like I don't have to plug in any cords to it anymore, and the battery's so fresh that I can keep it unplugged for a while. It's really nice.
Did
It's
we
really
lose
nice.
Dano?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you read the chat. He had a family emergency.
No, I didn't. I missed it.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Oh, Barb hit a deer. Wow.
Yeah.
Hope Barb's all right.
Yeah, me too. He had it out pretty quick, so hopefully everything's okay.
Oh, I missed it. She hit a deer. Wow.
Well, wonder if the meat's still good. So,
I hope so.
yeah, it looks like a nice laptop he sent you. You shared it with us on chat or on text.
Yeah. Oh, and the next day he got an email from Best Buy saying it was on sale for $200 cheaper. So he called them and they refunded him that money.
Wow,
Nice.
cool.
Yes. So he ended up getting a sale deal on it. I'm really stoked. He had been asking, like, let me buy a new one. And I was like, no, the old one works just fine. Waste not, want not. And finally he crapped out and goes, well, do you want your Christmas present early? And I was like, yes, I do.
Uh, Ohio Relic Hunter says, hopefully she didn't hit one of those giant paleo deers. Yeah,
Right.
no doubt. Now, Mr. Lodak, I, I, I believe in the Samaritan history and some other books and scriptures, and I believe there are giants in the land in those days, men of
I do too.
renown.
Well,
Yeah.
that I think that was part of the reason why I asked him that question about why were animals so big, and I mean there are, I guess, two schools on that. One that says no and one that says yes. You
Yeah.
know,
There's that way with everything, though, isn't
right?
there?
Yeah. Now,
There's evidence there, and the Smithsonian has hid a lot of it. And academia will tell you one thing
right,
they'll tell us a lot of things that aren't quite so, and the narrative they want us to believe. So,
right.
I know. Well, like, why is this being covered up? That's what I want to know. I believe they're real. My father says he's seen them himself when he was on digs when he was younger. So what I want to know is why are they hiding it? Why are they saying they're not real?
My opinion, uh, because of academics and religion, giants.
science and religion, yeah, or
Yeah,
true religion, more or less, instead of what we know nowadays. Well, I guess organized religion's always been a money grabbing business, but
Mm-hmm.
and
I think it's
and
too.
the government will never admit when it's wrong. So
No,
most
no.
bureaucracies won't admit when they're wrong. And
Michael, because they are aliens.
we're not saying it's aliens.
We're saying it's aliens. Now, I really don't believe in flying saucers flying around the world, but I do believe in interdimensional travels, different dimensions. See,
Well,
and
yeah, I
there's
believe, wait
another
a minute,
school of thought.
I believe in spaceships flying around the world, but they're not from space. They're from here.
They're from here, and they're
Right,
interdimensionals.
right. That's
Could call them demonic if
call
you
them
want to
what you
get
want.
that deep into it. How deep in the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Well, I want to know opinions because I just think it's so strange that's something. I mean, we have the giant dinosaurs. We have,
But
it's lots of.
that's just one of many things they don't want us to know about. Why? Because they don't think we can handle it, and they're probably right. We're pretty weak. We're pretty weak species on this planet.
I guess I don't know.
The
Maybe
only thing,
I'm
hey, the only thing that keeps
optimistic.
us, the only thing that keeps us viable is our brain. Because we sure the hell don't have the strength physically to survive without our
Yeah,
brain.
yeah.
Ray Russo was the aliens doing DNA testing, effing with DNA, making weird things, playing mad scientists in their saucers. Here, okay, we like on that when aliens attacked or whatever, they beamed up like that reporter and put her head on a poodle, and Mars attacks.
Mars, yeah,
Tuesday,
yeah.
Tuesday night black hole live.
Well,
Don't get me started.
you guys brought it up first. Um, so
Oh, there you
does
go.
his
Good
Bigfoot.
one, Jaron. The aliens had to make us smaller to keep us under control.
Well, they say the Anunnaki came down from the heavens and created man to mine gold to power their spaceships or power something. Um, so which way do we want to go? Maybe that's why we all get gold fever so easily.
It's
Because,
actually a theory I've heard before. It's like almost genetically ingrained in us to hunt for gold.
and he says he's a Squatch. We now have Sasquatch that uses computers and watch YouTube. It's amazing this 22nd, 21st century. Blah, blah, blah. Jeez. See what living in 2 centuries does to you, sis? Oh, yeah, but it was, we had Joe a little longer the last time. Were you with us yet when we had him on before?
No, that was my first time. That was my first experience.
Yeah, we've had him on before and he was a good guest. He spent a little longer time with us last time though. So, yeah.
He seemed busy. He seemed a little like he had something to do.
Well, yeah, he was like, yeah, I can't give you an hour. I don't have all the windows up that I had before, so um yeah, I'm like, hey, whatever. Like I said, I'm like, hey, if however long we can have you, we'll take, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was worth it.
No Bigfoots in Utah either. So Utah has no fossils, no dinos, no gold,
No
no
minerals whatsoever, no
foot,
pretty rocks.
just a bunch of empty Spanish caves and
And Jaren.
and
And
Mr.
Mormons.
Lodak and the Mormon Church and Sister Wives and GoPro Unlimited. Oh, we forgot Matt too. Bigfoot prospecting. There is Bigfoot in Utah. You fibbed. So, lot of wives, more wives. No Jeffs, no Jurens, no Matts. And lots of wives, more wives. And dino bones and flying saucers. How do you know, Randy? You're not from Utah. Not Swiftwater, Randy, Scotty, Tony. Um, I kind of crack up whenever someone says, "Hey, Swifty," and it's Randy, Scotty,
Right, and
Tony.
it's not.
It's kind of like when we call Bill Marsh
Joe.
Shane, or someone calls Shane Ohio Relic Hunter. Hey, Ringo! Incoming call. No incoming calls. Sorry. Second time that's happened on the show. Someone calling me on my Skype. What the heck? Was it one of
Yeah,
you, Brian, Ray? They both have my Skype, I think. Check out Jimmy Corsetti from Bright Inside on YouTube. That guy will blow your mind. Okay, Colin, I'll check it out. I'll have to copy and paste that name here. I don't
it
know.
was
Do
Ray.
I
He's
do I
old.
want to check it out really, Colin? Knowing you, buddy. I don't know.
And this year, I'm having a hard time telling if some of these comments are sarcasm or truth.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
already subscribed to him. Yeah, he's talks all kinds of hidden stuff about the room they found under the Sphinx and stuff. I'm subscribed to like a kabillion channels. I've been on here forever.
Do you ever forget that you're subscribed to
Oh,
a
it
channel
was
and then something pops
Ray.
up and you're like, oh,
Hold on a second, Ray. Let
Oh,
me
yeah, I have.
grab a link.
yeah.
In fact, the other day I looked at my YouTube and my subscription count. The hell am I doing with 300 subscriptions?
How did it get
Subscribers
this?
or
How did it get
subscriptions?
this big?
Who the hell am I watching?
All
And-
kinds
and-
of
and-
people,
Right,
salty
nobody.
crackers, and who else? Do you?
Oh yeah, music reactors and
Yeah, I've been
news
watching a few
people.
of them. All kinds of stuff. You'd be
Oh, dude. Remember last week I told you I was watching Christmas Carol movies
yeah.
throughout from now until Christmas? I mean, they've made so many of them. There's just tons of this story out there by different people. I watched one last night that was written and directed by Rod Serling in 1964. His version of Christmas Carol. Oh my God, talk about dark shit or stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a dark version. Rod Serling from Twilight Zone wrote it.
We have Mr.
Wow.
Ray Russo in the
Ray.
house.
As soon as he gets his mic turned on,
You gotta turn on your mic, buddy.
he knows that, but he don't
Unmute.
know how to do it. He forgets how to do it every time.
He has Skype. You know, I missed his watch party Sunday.
Turn your mic on, Ray.
But you
Unmute.
gotta hover over the bottom left part of your screen. Yep.
There
There
it
you
is.
go.
All right. Well, fuck. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Beep.
Actually, I only called in for one reason. I wish I'd have thought about it when your Paleo Joe guy was in. One of the things that even Brian Myler, I think, has seen them is these silly mastodon tusks. When they find them in the tundra, they're still soaking wet because they're kind of like in ice.
Right.
Right.
And when you pull them out, they start drying out and then they split like crazy, like long fractures all the way down the entire tusks, you know, in the layers of the tusk as the tusk is being built.
Right.
Right.
I wonder if he had a tricky way of preserving those.
That would have, yeah, you should have called in.
That
He
glue
would've told you.
solution he made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until after he was getting ready to hang up. And by then he was already trying to say goodnight. So it's like, well, okay. I guess
Hey, you know-
plastic
you know-
beads and what was it? Acetone or something?
Yeah, something.
Yes.
Go to his Facebook
Yes.
page. Pose that question to him. He'll answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still
But you gotta,
have
but you
his
gotta tell him.
page.
You gotta tell him that you saw him on our show.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, by the way, Rose, I'm impressed with your mug.
Yeah, I got it. It's how I've been keeping myself
Oh.
hydrated.
That
Holy
reminds me,
cow.
Rose.
Yeah, 3 a day, 3 a day with nothing but water.
I'm so
Good
bummed, Rose. Mama Kitty spazzed one night and had to come
Well,
over
anyhow,
and
that was my
bug
only
me.
comment. I'll go ahead and hang up.
Your
Well,
only
if you want,
comment?
okay.
Well, hey, who you been doing flash raids now with?
We haven't been doing much flash raids
You haven't been doing no flash raids?
lately.
No one, who's on?
Who's live after us?
I have no idea. That's why I asked
I
Did
you.
don't
you
think
eat?
I'm.
That's
yeah.
why I asked you. You
We don't
guys
know.
know. Ed and the
Let's
shed.
go.
know
Hey, we
everything.
can always go find some rando YouTuber.
Who's
The
live
schmuck.
right now?
We gotta look for a random schmuck.
Yeah.
Oh, what's this? Radio's live right now? What's he doing in my time slot?
What?
Oh, get him, Ed. Get him.
Right now.
He's fired.
I've thought about it.
Don't make
Talk to the audience too.
He
You make
he
them
wasn't
jump.
in here
Talking to
tonight, was
anybody
he?
a fan
Yeah,
of
he
rap.
came in
Not like
late and popped in and left.
Talking about Tolv, Randy Tolver?
No, Ronald,
Yeah,
yeah.
Ronald.
Ronald Tolver?
Yeah.
Oh, that's some bitch.
Oh, Rose. But before here, I'm gonna turn on my camera in Zoom. Can you see me?
I see
Yeah.
it. Hey, by the way, oh no.
Oh no.
Mama Kitty. Mama
Those
Kitty
darn
did
cats.
that.
Those
That darn
stinkers.
cat. That bums me out. You don't know how bad
Oh.
that bums me out, sis.
I'm sorry for you.
Boo-hoo. I know.
My wife got me one 2 Christmas ago. I love it, man. It says, wake up, drink coffee, poop, be awesome.
It's my
Got all
kind
my-
of cup.
Coffee mugs.
Got all my
Yeah.
vape batteries in there.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good sized coffee cup collection upstairs.
Yes, I say coffee cups you form attachments to. You know, if you're an avid coffee drinker, your coffee cup is a part of who you are.
Well, I just kind of like them
Yeah.
too. I mean, I actually did steal one from Greenland, and it's
Oh.
stolen. I
Oh.
didn't pay for it, man. I thieved it, man.
It's my souvenir.
I thieved it from a hotel. Anyhow,
So
Yeah.
did you have to pay for your own hotel, or did they take care of that?
they finally took care of it. They
Oh.
finally, I mean, I had a $4,800 bill, credit card bill, basically. And I told them, well, I wasn't gonna do nothing. I wasn't cooperating for nothing unless they paid it. They paid it just, I mean, like 3 days before the show aired.
Bastards.
3 months on a $4,800 bar bill is pretty cheap, you ask me.
Now, we need to raid Earth Radio and give that guy a hard time.
He's still live right now, huh?
Yeah, that guy is still alive. I'm gonna
You better
call
post
him
the
a
link.
two-timer.
Get him.
I'm gonna
Post the
call
link.
him a two-timer.
Is that his link, Jared?
All right, well, I'm gonna bail off. I'm gonna bail off and go bitch him out. See ya.
Well, the link to his
See ya.
live is posted in the live chat. All right, let's go troll Tolvert. Let's go troll Earth Radio. We could talk about aliens and flying saucers, you know. He's all into that stuff. So,
All right, I'm coming in. I'm going in, gonna yell raid. Raid.
Well, let's close it up before we do the raid.
I'm
Next
already
week,
there, guys.
everybody join us when we have Busted Knuckles prospecting on. And then we have I don't have my list up here anymore. I believe the 28th is an open line Tuesday. We're going to have a sneak attack by Keithy6, and he's going to talk about how the FBI raided his house, about relics that he's recovered from the woods of Washington. So that will be on Open Line Tuesday, kind of a special
That's cool. Yeah.
call-in. So everybody, thank you all very much. Be safe during this time of year. Love you all. Until next time, may you always have a flash in your pan.
You know what he's gonna say next.
That's right, because it happens, right, Rose?
They've all gone over to the other
Honest
channel, Ed.
Thomas, Randy, Scotty, Tony, JP.
Good night, everybody.
Maybe one day too,
Night.
we'll meet you on the river, or who knows, Menards,
Wherever. I'm
Crater
gonna
of
turn this fast so I
Diamonds,
can hear it.
It is.
somewhere. Let's go, Raider Radio. See you there.
I know you got the buzz. Why do you not have a spare? But you do not have a spare. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.